Hit that subscribe button, like and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from Storytime Sparkles. Jake Adams, a successful businessman at the helm of a multi-million-dollar empire, had it all: wealth, influence, and a life that seemed perfect on paper. But despite the success, a deep emptiness gnawed at him. The constant pressure of running a global corporation had left him disconnected from the world beyond his sleek office walls. One ordinary morning, as his schedule spiraled out of control, Jake's life would veer into the unexpected. It all started with a single mistake, a missed call in the chaos of his day. Rushing to catch his usual high-speed train to yet another board meeting, his mind swirled with deadlines and numbers. But today, Jake boarded the wrong train. Instead of the modern express, he found himself on a slower, vintage route that chugged through the quiet countryside. As the train meandered, Jake felt an eerie sense of detachment from his usual world. What is this place, he thought, glancing at the fields passing by. Where am I even headed? Hours later, the train pulled into a town that felt as though it belonged to another time. Peaceful, with cobblestone streets and warm, inviting faces. It was a world so different from his own that he felt like an outsider, completely out of place. And just when things couldn't get worse, Jake realized there were no trains back to the city until the next morning. Trapped in a town that seemed frozen in time, Jake had no choice but to stay the night. That's when he met her, Sophia. She was nothing like the high-powered, high-society figures Jake was used to. She was grounded, unhurried, and her mere presence seemed to breathe life into the mundane surroundings of the sleepy town. Little did Jake know, this unassuming detour would lead him to a love so powerful, it would challenge everything he thought he knew about happiness and connection. But before we dive deeper into Jake's journey, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe button. It helps us grow and bring more incredible stories to you. So let's continue. Jake stared out the window, his brow furrowed. The scenery had shifted from the concrete jungle of his city to lush, rolling fields and small, picturesque towns. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. His usual confidence was gone. His phone buzzed with emails, but he ignored them. What difference does another hour make? The train wasn't luxurious. The faded seats and wooden panels exuded a nostalgic charm, but nothing like the modern comfort he was used to. Jake couldn't help but feel more and more disconnected from his familiar world, his mind racing with thoughts of missed meetings and growing frustrations. "Where the hell am I going?" he muttered, feeling more lost by the minute. The train chugged along, the city's skyline long behind him, replaced by endless fields and sleepy little towns. He couldn't help but wonder, how could something as simple as boarding the wrong train make everything feel so off balance? And then, as if the universe had its own plan for him, the train pulled into a small town, nestled between rolling hills. It was peaceful, far too peaceful for someone like him. The town looked like something out of a dream. Cobblestone streets, quaint little shops, and people who seemed completely unaware of the hustle and bustle Jake was used to. What am I even doing here? Frustrated, Jake checked his watch. No trains back until morning. He was stuck. But just when he thought his day couldn't get any worse, he saw her, Sophia. She stood outside the station, her arms crossed, watching him with a quiet, amused curiosity. Jake didn't know her, but in that instant, something about her stopped him in his tracks. Unbeknownst to him, this encounter would change his life forever. Hit that subscribe button, like and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from Storytime Sparkles. It wasn't anything extravagant, but it felt like home to many. Sophia noticed Jake's eyes lingering on the group at the corner, and she smiled. "Want to join them? You might even like their homemade pie." "Pie? I didn't expect you to tempt me with dessert. It's the best kind of temptation. Trust me." The warmth inside the diner was a stark contrast to the chilly evening outside. Jake and Sophia settled into a cozy corner booth, and as they sat, Jake felt something he hadn't expected, a sense of belonging. It wasn't just the welcoming diner or the scent of freshly baked pie. There was something deeper. The people here didn't care about Jake's success or wealth. They valued presence, simplicity, and the joy of the moment. "So tell me, What's one thing you've always wanted to do, but never had the time for? Sophia asked, her voice gentle. Jake paused, considering. In his world, every moment had been meticulously planned. There had been no space for spontaneity or dreams. But here, in this little town, with Sophia beside him, he realized just how much he'd missed out on by living in constant motion. I've always wanted to take a road trip. Just go. No plan, no schedule, no deadlines. Sophia smiled warmly, her eyes glowing in the soft diner light. Maybe that's something you'll do someday. You never know where life might take you. For a brief moment, Jake felt a shift inside. Away from the stress of meetings, deadlines, and the constant drive to succeed, he began to feel the possibility of letting go. Maybe it was time to embrace the unknown, to allow life to unfold without control. The evening wore on, and as the diner emptied, the quiet of the town settled in. Jake and Sophia were still deep in conversation, the soft overhead light casting shadows that danced on their faces. Jake found himself smiling more freely, a smile that reached his eyes, something he hadn't done in years. The cool air outside felt refreshing as they walked from the diner. Jake felt lighter than he had in ages, like the weight of his high-powered career had melted away, replaced by the peaceful simplicity of this town and the companionship of a woman who saw him for who he truly was. Not his wealth or status, but him, Jake. You know, Jake said, I'm starting to think that getting lost might have been the best thing that's ever happened to me. I told you, Sophia replied. This town has a way of growing on people. You just have to let go and let it happen. Jake didn't argue. Somewhere along the way, he had changed. The man who once lived for power lunches and boardroom battles now found himself savoring the small, fleeting moments. Like the way the stars seemed brighter here, how the sound of crickets chirped in perfect harmony with his thoughts, and how Sophia's laughter made everything feel right. They reached a quiet park on the edge of town, where a lone bench faced a serene pond. The water reflected the starry sky, creating a peaceful, almost otherworldly scene. Jake and Sophia sat together, the silence between them comfortable, neither of them needing to fill the space with words. You've been quiet, Sophia remarked. I've just been thinking. You're right. I've spent so much of my life trying to control everything, trying to stay ahead. I think I've forgotten what it's like to just be me. Sophia nodded. It's not easy to let go, especially when you've built your life around control. But sometimes the best things happen when we stop trying to force them. Jake's gaze softened. Her words sank in deeper than he expected. Maybe I've been chasing the wrong things all along. Maybe I need to focus on what makes me truly happy, not what I think should. As the words left his mouth, Jake felt an unexpected sense of relief. It wasn't a complete transformation, but it was a step forward. And in that moment, with Sophia by his side, he realized something he hadn't allowed himself to believe in a long time. Happiness wasn't something to earn. It was something to embrace, to find in the unplanned, beautiful moments of life. That's a start, Sophia smiled. You're already on the right path. Jake wasn't sure where this path would lead, but for the first time in years, he felt like he was walking in the right direction. The night was still, the air cool and gentle. As they sat by the pond, the world seemed to slow down, the distant hum of crickets and the soft rustling of leaves creating a peaceful, serene soundtrack to their connection. For Jake, this was unlike anything he had ever experienced. He had spent his life striving for success, measuring his worth in accomplishments, titles, and accolades. But here in this quiet town, everything felt different. Time had slowed just long enough for him to breathe. You don't have to keep pretending with me, Sophia said softly. I'm not pretending. I just don't know what's happening. Everything feels, easier with you. Sophia looked at him, her eyes kind and understanding. She wasn't the type to push him, but she could see the change in him. The man who had once only cared about career now let down his walls, and she understood the quiet strength of someone ready to embrace something more than just external validation. You don't have to have all the answers right now, she said, but maybe it's time to listen to what you really want, instead of what you think you should want. Jake thought about her words. I've spent my life deciding based on what I should do, not what I want, and maybe that's why I've never felt fulfilled. Sophia smiled. You've been living for everyone else's expectations, not your own. Sometimes we have to let go of the should and follow what feels right, even if it doesn't make sense at first. Jake was silent for a long moment. He had spent years building a life to impress others, but now he realized he had never stopped to ask himself if he even liked that life. The realization was heavy but liberating. He had chased success, titles, and approval. But now with Sophia beside him, he saw that true success wasn't about wealth or status. It was about finding peace, love, and connection. You deserve to live a life that makes you happy, Sophia said gently, not just one that impresses others. Jake turned to her, his heart racing in a way he didn't fully understand. Something about her made him want to believe. He had always been too focused on external success. But here, in this small town, with Sophia beside him, he began to understand that true success wasn't measurable in accomplishments or wealth. Maybe I don't need to be anyone else anymore, Jake whispered, realizing that he was becoming the man he had always needed to be. Not the successful millionaire, but Jake, a man who could love, laugh, and be present in the moment. As the stars shimmered overhead, Jake understood that he wasn't lost anymore. He was finally on the path to finding what truly mattered. Sophia looked at him with understanding in her eyes. I think we all have to find our way. The path isn't always clear, but sometimes it leads us exactly where we need to be. In that quiet moment, Jake felt something change in him. He no longer needed the approval of the world. He had found something far more precious: authenticity, peace, and a connection with Sophia that went deeper than anything he had ever experienced. For the first time in years, Jake was fully present. He wasn't thinking about his next big deal or his career pressures. He was thinking about the woman beside him, the life they were starting to build, and the future that wasn't about external success, but about love, connection, and freedom. You've still got a lot to learn, Jake, but you're on the right path, Sophia said with a soft smile. Jake smiled back. I think I'm ready to learn. The small town, the wrong train, and Sophia had opened his eyes to a world of possibilities. He wasn't just a millionaire anymore. He was a man on a journey, one filled with love, discovery, and the promise of a future that was truly his own. And so, Jake's story reminds us that true happiness doesn't come from wealth, status, or success. It comes from finding peace and simplicity, connecting with people who see us for who we are, and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. It's about redefining success, not by others' expectations, but by our own joy. Love stories like this? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from Storytime Sparkles.